Welcome back to our special report. When a murder lands on the desk of a homicide detective, one of the first calls they make is to the victim's ex, if they have one. And Monique Tepe certainly had one. Dr. Michael McKee, the man they've charged with the double murder. And one of the first questions they ask you is, where were you on the night of the crime? Some killers clam up right away, but some turn on the charm and spill a whole bunch of lies. The same impulse that leads certain people to kill can also lead them to try to talk their way out of trouble. And that may have happened already with Dr. McKee. And Jeanette Levy of Law and Crime reports that Dr. McKee gave the police an alibi that did not hold up. But today at their press conference, police said that by the time they actually put him in cuffs, he invoked his right to remain silent. But had he already said too much before his arrest? I can tell you this much. If the surgeon told the police something like, "No, officer, I've never set foot in the Tepe's house," and if hypothetically his DNA, his hair, or a fiber from any of his clothes is found in that house, that's what I say in legalese, your goose is cooked. What else might have Dr. McKee told the police, along with that alleged bogus alibi? It's why Mark Geragos stays up at night and always says, call your lawyer before ever opening your mouth. He's a legendary defense attorney. He's co-host of the two podcasts, Two Angry Men and Reasonable Doubt, and he's a longtime friend of the show from the very beginning. Mark Geragos, that was the first thing I thought of, was that has this guy possibly painted himself into a corner because you know the police call the exes first?
They always do, and people always, unfortunately, have this reflexive need to kind of talk and basically talk themselves or paint themselves into a corner. And unfortunately, I've said it, I can't tell you how many times, on the federal level, they almost never record what you say, so it's your word versus their word about what you said. And then when it comes to local, sometimes they hear something, you didn't mean it that way, it doesn't come across that way. It's a no-win situation. You do not talk yourself out of something, you only talk yourself into something.
Can I ask you this, and I'm sure you know it because you've seen the transcripts over and over in your line of work. What's the first question police always ask the ex when they make contact?
They always want to know, was there trouble in paradise, basically. There's always some form or derivation of how was the relationship, what was the relationship, when was the last time you saw her? And they go down the usual litany of questions, and people always think they're going to spin it, they're going to do whatever. I mean, I understand the urge. I mean, nobody wants to be, imagine if you didn't do something. Nobody wants to be falsely accused. And imagine if you did do something. You don't want to talk yourself into it. It's just a no-win situation most of the time. And obviously there are exceptions. There's no hard and fast rule in every single situation. But it almost inevitably in these cases, I can't tell you the number of times I've sat in a trial, in a murder trial, where the words of my client come back, and that is what you spend the whole time having to explain, having to interpret, having to provide context, and basically doing the battle that you never had to do.
Yeah, and it basically can torpedo a defense. For instance, if the original cops who reached out to him just because he was the ex, not because they suspected that he was a murderer, asked him, have you ever been in their house? Were you in Columbus that night? Have you ever been in the Tepe house? And if he answered no, well, how on earth does a defense attorney deal with forensics that might show hair, fibers, DNA of the defendant in that home or of the victims in the defendant's home?
And by the way, I take that same situation if it's unrecorded and you heard or understand the question to be, were you there this day or were you there last week? And you thought that's what they were asking. But in fact, you were there a month ago, 2 months ago, and that isn't what you were focused on. Something that is a harmless answer can be twisted around because, and I'm not saying law enforcement necessarily does that, but you're talking about two different people with two different agendas looking at the same situation. And the person who is in the crosshairs, if you're innocent and you have somebody, a loved one that's missing, you want to help, you want to give information, you're not looking to try to protect yourself. And the person who is asking the questions is coming into this situation. They have no idea what the relationship was. They're trying to get information. It's just a very difficult dance to navigate. And remember, one side is a hardened investigator who's been through this a zillion different times, and somebody else who is scared, traumatized, and presumably doesn't have any experience in this area.
Quick answer on this one, but I have to get your perspective. Police say they found the murder weapon in the house. What criminal keeps a murder weapon, let alone in his house, if Dr. McKee is indeed the killer?
Well, finding the murder weapon in the house doesn't tie it to him unless there's some other evidence. There's, just like most accidents, car accidents happen close to home. Unfortunately, many homicides happen in the house or in the curtilage of the house. So that alone doesn't do it for me.
I don't know. If I'm a juror, I don't know why a murder weapon would end up in an ex-husband's home 6 hours drive away. But there's so much we have yet to find out. Mark Geragos, thank you. I always appreciate your perspective.
See you Friday.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.